Hello, and welcome again to David Bowles' Human Meme podcast. It's always lovely to have you here. And today we're going to discuss this idea. Why do we create? And when I say create, I mean practically everybody. You can't really get through the day without creating something. It's not just writers writing, artists painting and creating other interesting things. It's people. It's parents creating children. It's the sandwich maker creating the most beautiful sandwich ever. And I one time gave a compliment to a guy who was making a sandwich. It was at some deli a while ago. And the way that he put the bread on the plate with the lettuce and the other things inside of the sandwich, and the way that he cut it on the bias and presented it and put one end up on top of the other, I said, you're an artist. You're a sandwich artist. And he looked at me for a moment, kind of odd and strangely, and then he said, thank you. So I don't know if people notice those small talents that people have throughout the day, but they're joyous when you see them. The guys who do the garbage in our neighborhood, the way they have a rhythm, they have a specific mechanization of movement that makes them do the fastest amount of work in the shortest period of time. And when you're dealing with people's throwaway stinky stuff, really you want to be choreographed. You want to get rid of it as soon as possible. You don't want it hanging around on your body longer than it has to be. So there are 4 points that we're going to discuss today. One is preserving the truth. Second is selfish reasons of immortality. Finally, being of the moment and not in the moment. And then I have a little bonus for you at the end that we'll discuss in just a moment. But why do we create? Preserve the truth. What we know is what we know, what we think we know. The meme, as we've discussed before, the mimetic, how we share information, how we learn, the schemes of thought. We keep the mimetic alive by creating something. What we think we know. History is full of mistakes. I want to say riddled with mistakes, but I almost want to say, again, on top of that, history is a riddle of mistakes. What we thought we knew then, we don't know now. There was a time in America, not too long after the founding of this country, where we believed in witches, and we believed in burning people at the stake to teach them a lesson and to prove a point. And today we think, we're so enlightened, we're smart, we're the best country in the world. And all someone has to do is just go back and point at the stake and the woman burning and her ashes flying into the air to know that we don't really know anything, even though we think we know. We preserve the truth to separate facts from fiction and imagination from provability. Now, imagination is important up to a point. But when you're dealing in the human realm, where lives are affected and thoughts are condensed, being able to prove what you know is vitally important. And we do that through experimentation and conversation and proving and quantification and qualification. There's an old joke from the Sopranos show that was on HBO a long time ago. And it went something like this. An old mob guy said, "You know what I really hate? There's nothing more boring in the world when someone starts a sentence with, 'I remember when.'" And isn't that interesting? Nostalgia. Is it fact or fiction? Is nostalgia memorization of what happened? Is that preserving the truth, or is that preserving an unreality of something that you wish had happened and now you're disremembering it to put it in a better light? I agree that going back in time to reminisce can be a little tedious, because usually the person who's doing the reminiscing may not be thinking on the same level of energy as the other people in the room, and everyone may have a different shared memory, and sometimes that leads to conflict and danger. And while we love that as a dramatist, we don't always want conflict and danger and irrevocable change in our lifetimes, our regular lifetimes. We preserve the truth to create a meme, to give context, 4 corners to an idea that we then share with somebody. They chew on it for a while, spit it back to us, we spit it back to them, and that back and forth is how we learn and how we evaluate what we decide to share. Someone might throw something at me, I chew on it and spit it out, and I don't propagate it because I don't like it. So the meme stops with me is perhaps a new way of thinking. We don't always have to pass on what we hear or what we know or what we think we know. Sometimes it's best just to keep it to yourself. Oversharing is a burden. Selfish reasons of immortality. Now, there's another old phrase that I'm reminded of. A character in a play said, "It is my goal in life to become immortal and then die." Now, this happened to be a very young character, immature, thinking that the paramount of living is to become a god and then to become not a god, to prove that a god is not a god. So it's an immature thought, but the idea is kind of right. We always want to try to reach for something that we can't have, because if we get it, then maybe we stop trying. So going for the irreconcilable grasp is something that's an interesting opportunity that you should grab if you have a chance. There's another saying that also has to do with why we create, and it has to do with living a life. And there's another saying that we die twice in a lifetime. Once when our body dies, and the second time when the last person living who remembers us dies. And so in some people there is that want, that need, that drive to be remembered beyond your life and the last person who remembers you's life. And that is why people build monuments to themselves. They build skyscrapers, put their name on them in big brass letters. People write books. Now books become graves. Big buildings are headstones to a life. The art on the wall is not something that's always living. It's a moment in time, and it becomes ultimately a crypt. Now, being of the moment and not in the moment. The difference between the of and the in is important. If you're in the moment, you're a part of the moment. It's there, it's happening around you. Of the moment is something I believe is much more organic. You take the self out of it. You're observing that moment as an artist, as a creator, as a parent, as a person, and you learn in this very particular narrow niche through passive osmosis. You're not judging, you're not thinking, you're not evaluating, you're letting the information wash over you. You're taking it. It might cleanse you, it might make you dirtier, but that's an evaluation for later, not when you are of the moment. And it's all right to change your mind. You can be thoughtful. You can think one thing this moment, and the next day you can think something else, and it's absolutely right, because pondering, thoughtfulness, changing your mind is important. When you find a politician who says, I thought about it, and I think I've changed my mind, that's a person you can support. That's a person who is educated and confident and not fearful of taking in new information to go a different way. We are alive and not robotic. We are autonomous but not animatronic. And that is also being of the moment and not in the moment. The authenticity of being of and not in results in being real and genuine. Now, I told you we were going to have a little bit of a bonus. Well, it's now bonus time, so get ready to have a slight little bit of fun. And the bonus idea is this. We create. Why do we create? Same topic. The bonus is we create to test and withstand the challenges of time. And I will start by giving you this example. Meet my friend. Alexa, what is 73.5% of 2,500?
73.5% of 2,500 is 1,837.5.
Alexa, thank you.
Anytime.
All right. So that is Alexa, Amazon Echo. Personal digital assistant who feels alive and real. The voice is very effective. You can speak very quickly. She, he, it, the machine the pendulum swinging back and forth between the uncanny valley and reality, is there, always listening for the code name, the start name, Alexa. I'm whispering. Oh, she heard me. I'm whispering it. Hello, Alexa. Oh, I think she gave up on me. Alexa.
Sorry, thanks for telling me.
Okay, now, a little uncanny there. But the point is this. Someone decided, a genius, a forward thinker, decided, I need to create something that I can put in somebody's house that they can use every day, and I'm going to sell soap with it ultimately, but they can use it every day to get the weather and to get information, and I'll help them do math problems. Now, I'm pretty good with math. I do a lot of contracts, I do percentages, I do royalties, you do back end, and when you're negotiating live with somebody, if you want to get the best deal, you need to know your numbers, and you need to do math very quickly in your head. But doing fractions of percentages as fast as Alexa can do it, I cannot do it. So if I were negotiating with Alexa, which I'm sure is something that will happen ultimately in the future, we'll be negotiating with our own robot overlords, I will lose the argument because you can't argue with the right answer. So somebody created Alexa, and of the moment, in the moment, Alexa is here, viable, workable, and very quickly, within a few days, becomes an integral part of your life. Now, that's technology. Are books an integral part of our life? We hope so. Art, we hope so. Sandwiches? Absolutely. And this is where we find ourselves, where technology replaces technology. But it's different when you go back in time a little bit. Speaking about, again, creation and why we create. Paper replaced the stone tablet. The portable stone tablet replaced the cave wall separating from the spoken word. Paper is replaced by digital ink. Digital ink is replaced by the effervescence of the live spoken word. And there we are with circular storytelling. The mimetic, arising like a phoenix from its own thought bubble, arriving only momentarily to remind us again and again and again of how unfar we've really come when it comes to sustaining the elements of time and tide in creation. Thank you for joining me. Be a human meme.